The mess hall at Naval Base Coronado buzzed with its usual early morning static metal trays clattering, boots scraping linoleum, laughter from a group of fresh recruits too green to know better. And then the door opened. She stepped in like a ghost cut from old cloth. Worn combat boots, scuffed and cracked. Fatigues a shade too faded, no name tape, no rank. Just a plain camo jacket hanging off her shoulders like borrowed skin. Her hair was short, not regulation but not wild either. Cropped clean, uneven in places like it had been cut with a dull knife and no mirror. Her eyes, when they moved, didn't look around. They scanned, calculated, measured exits, choke points, surveillance angles. She walked past the drink machine, didn't glance at the line, just grabbed a tray and slid into the queue. Nobody stopped her, not at first. Some chuckled, figuring maybe she was a contractor. Maybe a civilian with a forgotten pass. One guy in an airborne t-shirt smirked. She looks like she got spit out of a training film from '98. His buddy laughed. But when she sat down at a table near the corner alone, head bowed, tearing into eggs and toast, with the calm of someone too hungry to pretend two military police walked in. They didn't hesitate. The taller one, a square-jawed corporal with mirrored sunglasses still on indoors, pointed. Her boots echoed hard against tile. The air changed. Conversation died out like a power outage. Forks hung mid-air. People turned in unison, watching the woman eat her last bite of scrambled eggs before finally looking up. Name? The shorter MP barked. She wiped her mouth with a napkin, folded it in half, and set it down precisely beside her tray. No words. You got ID? Nothing. The taller MP stepped closer. You are not authorized to be here. You're in uniform without designation. You're impersonating military personnel on a secured installation. Still, she said nothing. Just blinked once. Slow, no fear, no confusion, just stillness. A junior officer near the salad bar snorted, voice too loud. You think you're a SEAL or something. That's when she finally moved. She stood, calm, measured, hands where they could see them. The MP's closed-in fast arms grabbed, cuffs snapped tight behind her back with a sharp clack. She didn't resist, didn't flinch. The mess hall watched, stunned. What's your unit? The shorter MP demanded, dragging her toward the exit. You all? Homeless? Stolen valor? Should have known, someone muttered. Just another nutcase in surplus gear. They pulled her past the long steel counter, past the gazes of dozens of soldiers and sailors now leaning forward to catch a better look. And that's when it happened. She stumbled slightly on a crack in the tile. Her cuffed arms swung, and her sleeve rode up, just enough. A weathered Navy instructor, sitting near the back corner nursing black coffee and a busted knee, saw it. The tattoo. Ink aged and faded but unmistakable. A trident clean and symmetrical spearing downward through a broken chain, right above the left wrist bone. His face drained. He whispered it so low it was meant for no one. No way. That tattoo's real. But by then the doors were swinging shut behind her, and the mess hall was already filling with new noise boots, murmurs, half-jokes, masking unease. The instructor didn't laugh. He just stared at the doors. Because he'd seen that mark before, and he knew exactly what it meant. The holding room smelled like bleach and recycled air. No windows, one camera blinking red in the corner, a table bolted to the floor. She sat with her cuffed hands resting calmly on the scratched metal surface, wrists red but her posture unbothered. Her boots were still muddy. Her jacket unzipped just enough to show the base of her throat, but no dog tags hung there. She hadn't said a word since they dragged her in. Word moved faster than orders at a live-fire drill. By mid-afternoon, the whole base was buzzing. Some said she was a lunatic who broke in wearing vintage camo. Others whispered she was an ex-SEAL dishonorably discharged, trying to sneak back in for revenge. A few joked she was CIA gone rogue, but the most common opinion was simpler: she was a liar, a poser, a fraud with enough nerve to walk into Coronado like she belonged. Around 1,600, a female officer showed up outside the door, arms crossed, expression already sour. Lieutenant Drakesharp, bob haircut, regulation perfect uniform, every metal polished like glass. Asked for 5 minutes. The MPs stepped aside. She stepped into the room like she was entering court. Well, well, Drake sneered. What's the play here, huh? Thought you'd get your big moment. Maybe some SEAL would fall in love with your tragic little backstory. Her heels clicked as she circled the table. Let me guess, watched 0 Dark 30, one too many times, and figured you'd cosplay your way onto a base? No response. Just the steady rhythm of slow breathing. You're not the first wannabe, Drake said. We get your type, lonely, delusional, addicted to hero worship. You don't get to wear the uniform just because you bought it at a surplus store. Still nothing. She's mute now? Drake snorted. Figures. They never talk once, the cuffs go on. Then she walked out, laughing under her breath. What a joke. An hour later, 2 enlisted SEALs, both in t-shirts and gym shorts, fresh off the obstacle course, passed by the holding room and slowed down just long enough to peek through the reinforced window. One of them nudged the other and grinned. She's got the build, he said. Probably does CrossFit 3 times a day to sell it. Look at her hands, the other one pointed. All scarred and calloused, must have done that on purpose. Grip tape and pull-ups until her skin peeled. They walked off, still joking. Maybe next she'll claim she dated a SEAL too. Full fantasy package. Inside the room she didn't move, but something behind her eyes shifted. Just for a second. And then the memories came. Not words, not explanations, just soundless flashes buried under silence. The crash of a ramp door opening onto black ocean, storming a beach with tracer fire splitting the sky, a voice screaming in a language she didn't speak, a child's hand reaching through metal bars, blood spreading in water, the snap of a broken cage door, her own hand tattoo bleeding, knuckles torn gripping a breathing mask and shoving it onto a face already blue. The feeling of the ocean pressing in, pulling everything down. The moment her team stopped answering. The moment everything went quiet. She blinked. Once. And the room returned. By 23:41, the base lights had dimmed to evening status. A junior intelligence officer sat alone in a secure archive room, flipping through old black files that required retina clearance. He was trying to find proof she wasn't real, something to close the loop, put her in a folder labeled disciplinary action and move on. But then his screen froze. Not a glitch, a warning. The file he tried to open gave a clearance error. He tried again. This time, it worked, but the image on screen made him stop breathing. A photo, blurry, desert heat distortion. But there she was, standing over a burning vehicle, rifle raised, body positioned like a predator. The timestamp said she shouldn't exist. His hand hovered over the mouse. Then he closed the file, locked the terminal, and bolted out of the room. Back in the holding cell, she didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at the table like she already knew what he saw. The sky was still dark when Admiral Harlan Briggs entered the Command Operations Center. His steps sharp, shoulders squared, uniform impeccable despite the hour. The room snapped to attention. No one spoke unless spoken to, not around Briggs. He wasn't just brash, was legacy. A walking record of black ops, wartime strategy, and ghosts only found in redacted files. His aide handed him a sealed folder marked, "Eyes Only," black stripe across the top. Briggs opened it, scanned the lines quickly, then stopped. He read one sentence twice, then again. His jaw locked, a breath caught in his throat. "I want her name," he said, eyes narrowing. His aide hesitated. "Sir, she doesn't have one, not in any file. It was purged, full wipe, no ID, no birth certificate, no ops number." Briggs stared down at the page. There was only one kind of operative that left no paper trail. Only one unit ever did that, he whispered, almost to himself. Then louder, "Get me a vehicle." now. By mid-morning, the entire base had become a living rumor mill. The photo was everywhere. Grainy, dust-blown, Yemen, 2011. A figure barely visible carrying a wounded man through smoke and fire. No helmet, no patch, just speed and focus. Someone posted it to a closed chat for Navy intel. The caption read, "Same tattoo. Same eyes. Who the hell is she?" Within minutes, the usual skeptics spoke up. "It's fake," one posted. "AI, generated crap." "Old SEAL myth," another wrote. "The ghost chick? Urban legend." But others stayed quiet, especially those who'd been in the Middle East that year. Especially those who remembered the rescue op that never made the reports, the one that saved a high-value hostage no one was supposed to know existed. The op that went sideways and got cleaned up without explanation. Outside the holding cell, two MPs stood stiff-backed but fidgety. One of them kept glancing at the monitor showing the woman inside. She hadn't moved in hours, not even when they brought food. Not even when another officer called her a disgrace through the intercom. Then the elevator chimed. Admiral Briggs stepped out like a storm in dress blues. His eyes locked on the cell door. "Open it." The MPs froze. "Sir, we." He didn't repeat himself. He just reached for the latch and stepped in. The woman looked up finally. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air, like gravity, realigning. Briggs didn't speak right away. He stood at attention. Then he saluted. The room tilted on its axis. One of the MPs blinked like he was watching the laws of physics collapse. Briggs turned, his voice cold and sharp. "Take those cuffs off now." They didn't move. "Do it," he snapped, stepping closer. "That tattoo's real." Silence detonated through the hallway like a flashbang. The cuffs came off, slow and shaking. The woman rolled her shoulders once. No sound. No thanks. Briggs stared at her, then said to the room, "She's not a SEAL." Everyone stopped breathing. She trained the ones who made it. The sun broke over Coronado like it knew something had changed. The base stood stiller than usual. No barked commands, no whistles. Just the clatter of boots moving toward the parade ground. Every recruit, every officer, every straggler suddenly quiet and focused. Word had spread, not officially, but through the spaces between orders and footfalls. She was still here, and she'd been asked to speak. She stood at the edge of the formation, hands in her pockets, expression unreadable. Same worn boots, same outdated jacket. The cuffs of her sleeves rolled just enough to show the trident and broken chain. The base commander stepped forward, cleared his throat, and said what everyone already knew. "Operative Carter has been cleared of all accusations." He paused. "You're here today because leadership believes you need to see what real looks like." Then he nodded to her. She didn't take the mic. She didn't need it. She just walked forward slow, steady, like each step had purpose carved into it. Rows of elite recruits, SEAL candidates, special warfare officers, Marines from nearby shifted on their feet as she passed. No one dared look her directly in the eyes, but everyone tried. Something in her silence demanded attention. She stopped at the front of the formation, the morning sun casting her shadow across the gravel. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She just stood there, looking out at the sea of faces who had either doubted her or didn't know better. One of them, a young candidate, no older than 20, standing dead center in the second row, began to cry. Quietly. No one asked why. No one mocked him. Because something unspoken was pressing down on them, all the weight of what they'd done, what they'd said, and who she actually was. In the days that followed, justice didn't come with announcements or headlines. It came quietly, like frost retreating under daylight. The female officer who'd spat movie quotes through the holding cell was reassigned to Greenland logistics duty. The two enlisted SEALs who joked about her hands were separated and sent to remote posts with no operational clearance. The lieutenant who labeled her as imposter in her file? Gone. No one even saw him pack. But the whispers moved faster than the reassignments. Operators started showing up on base without orders. Former SEALs. Black Ops ghosts with hollow eyes and tight lips. They didn't speak to her. They didn't stay long. But they came. And every one of them, before leaving, found a way to whisper a quiet, "Thank you." Some didn't even use her name. They just nodded and walked away. She never changed expression. Didn't start dressing different, didn't give interviews. She just packed her gear one evening's low and meticulous and walked across the tarmac as the sky turned gray. A black helicopter waited near the fence line. No insignia, no tail number. The kind that didn't show up on manifests. The Admiral was already there, arms behind his back, his jaw set tight. As she approached, he raised his hand and saluted her. Again. She returned the gesture not as formality, but like a full circle closing. No one spoke. She climbed into the bird, ducking slightly under the blades. The door shut behind her with a soft thud. The rotors spun faster, kicking dust into the air, blinding the onlookers. By the time they cleared their eyes, she was gone. And this time, they didn't forget her. She disappeared into the sky, nameless again, but this time, they remembered.